my computer, but thanks for having me, y'all. My name's Emmanuel Brown. Most people call me EB. I live in Durham, so excited to chat with some of y'all who also work in Durham. Project Pando, though, is mainly based in Raleigh because that's where Leaf and Limb is, and that's where Project Pando's primary nursery is. So this presentation will talk about both locations. So yeah, to start, I have been working with Project Pando for about 6 years now, and so I'm excited to kind of talk about our primarily our seed collection program because we are going into that season where lots of seeds are falling from all sorts of native trees. And so our work, or primarily my work for the last 6 years, has been running this community-driven nursery through Project Pando because Project Pando's mission is to connect people with trees, and we really want to focus on hands-on connection through that mission. And so a nursery is a great way to do that. We'll talk a little bit more about the details here. This is a picture of our nursery at behind Leaf and Limb, although this is pretty old. We've expanded a lot from this picture, which has been nice. But so yeah, what do I mean by community driven? I think one of the most concrete ways to explain that is through the volunteer seed collection, which is a program we run all year, but this time of year it gets very busy. Because when you collect seeds from trees, it's one of the best ways to really start to learn more about the local trees in our areas and make a big difference in the both the like urban tree canopy. This is a great way to grow more trees that can be planted in our area, but also diversity. There's a ton of diversity in our area, and our volunteer seed collection has been really effective in collecting both a lot of seeds and a diversity of seeds from the Triangle region. We Right now, our seed collection effort can grow about 20,000 trees every year. Trees meaning like 1 year germinated trees. So there's a little more detail in that, depending on what you're imagining. If you're imagining a big 15-gallon tree, not quite. And we've also worked with over 100 different species of native trees and shrubs. So again, we are lucky to be blessed with a huge diversity of trees and shrubs in our area. And volunteer seed collection can help us propagate that diversity and find homes for it, which we'll keep talking about. But yeah, this is a really important issue. There's a recent study that talked about if we're trying to meet a lot of our reforestation goals, seeds are a big bottleneck to those goals, and people who can collect those seeds is another big bottleneck. So that's really a lot of the motivating force behind our seed collection network. It's just, again, a really efficient and effective way of collecting a lot of seeds. And we're trying to publish as much information as we learn from this process that can be shared um, to help train more seed hunters locally and beyond. Um, and so, yeah, every year there are countless pounds of seeds that fall from our native trees and shrubs in the area that go wasted. In the urban area, it's very hard for a seed to find a place to grow to become a tree. Oftentimes, you see things like this, acorns just being run over by cars, or a big rain will come through and wash this into the storm water, or the grounds crew will pick them up and just throw them in the trash. So this is kind of like a big waste stream we have that we can turn into the wonder of a tree. And just this picture, this was near downtown Durham, right next to a church. This is probably at least 600 baby trees that we're seeing right here. And that's just one part of the tree. The tree has a big canopy with lots of acorns falling. And the chances that those actually can become trees without our help is low. Um, Another important reason for this work is trying to grow more trees from seed that are growing in our area. If we're planting white oaks, we don't really want to buy a white oak tree from a nursery that grew that tree from a seed collected in New York, Kansas, who knows? A lot of the big scale nurseries ship trees all around the country, and that's not really following, our understanding of ecoregions. Ecoregions are places with similar climate, elevation, soils, bedrock, and trees that thrive in those ecoregions produce seeds that are more adapted to those ecoregions. So you can see Durham County has, even on this granular level, two different ecoregions, and we can produce better trees if we're collecting seed locally versus from further away. And then again, we really like seed collection because it hits some of these fundamental aspects of what could shift our culture from one that clear cuts all the time, as what's happening here in the triangle, to one that preserves trees and it works more creatively with trees. So education is huge. Seed collection is a great educational tool for all ages. Inspiration comes a lot through this work. Like we collect a lot of white oak acorns, and now we've started to learn about how you can turn white oak acorns into food. Both flour and acorns can be turned into oil. And that's led us down all these rabbit holes, reading books, connecting to people who are trying to reestablish what was once a staple crop. All across the Northern Hemisphere, everyone used to eat a ton of acorns, and that history has been lost for various reasons, but could be revived, especially as we start to learn more about the importance of biodiversity and the importance of perennial agriculture. And then relationship. We believe that what's really important for biodiversity is creating relationship with biodiversity. And seed collection forces you to visit a tree multiple times, to have that hands-on feeling of actually collecting the seed. It can get pretty addicting for a lot of people. And then seeing that seed grow into a tree is really satisfying. So to try to organize all this work, we've created the Native Seed Hub, which is both a physical location that I showed you, the nursery. We also have a seed room where we sort seeds, process seeds, plant seeds, etc. And it's also a digital space on Leaf and Limb's website where we share a lot of resources. And hopefully, people will take those and collect their own seeds or improve on the resources, replicate some of this work. We're trying to be as collaborative as possible because, as we talked about earlier, there's a lot of work to be done. And this is also a lot of this work is in this book, From Wasteland to Wonder, which was written by Basil, the owner of Leaf and Limb and the one who started Project Pando. And so there's a lot more information in there, more than we can get into today. But just some of our digital resources. So on that website, we have the seed calendar, which breaks down when seeds should be ripe from various species. There's a lot of nuance for species depending on the year and the tree and the location of the tree, but this gives you a general sense of when to start looking. And you can see here, this is our really busy season, October, November. That's when the majority of our native trees and shrubs are dropping seed. And then we also have these seed ID pages, which go into more detail on the individual species. So a little bit of information on what the seed actually looks like, some videos, some pictures, and some tips on how to collect, because each one has some nuance there. And so where to collect? Backyards, along your walks, within parks, along greenways, roads, university business campuses are a really great place. A lot of people immediately start thinking about, oh, I'm going to go to the forest to collect, but that honestly can be the trickiest place to collect. And you also just want to be careful that you're not doing more harm than good. And oftentimes the forest has a stewardship team that may say you can't collect seeds there. So really these urban areas are where seeds are less utilized by wildlife and have less of a chance of actually finding a home on their own. And so that's the best place to connect or to collect. Um, so yeah, we've been kind of crafting, this year is the first year we've been sort of like, let's create more of a network around this work. And so this is really rough, but we've been having a lot of conversations with different groups across the triangle about, how to answer this question. Like, if we had a really well-organized native seed network, what's possible there? How many seeds could we collect from how many species? And then how could we use those trees in partnership with a lot of these organizations? So here's just a quick list of the communication we have been having with various groups, and would love to continue the communication. So here in Durham, Clay Boardley at Panther Creek Forest Farm and Keep Durham Beautiful have been super helpful. And we've been chatting a little bit more with these other groups, but not quite as formally. Raleigh, we're working with, especially the Parks Department in Raleigh. They have a wonderful conservation team at the Parks Department. I don't think Durham does. I wish they did. But they've been really great. And these other groups in Raleigh, Chapel Hill, a little bit of work there. I should put New Hope Audubon on there. We've had some conversations with y'all too, but not recently. We should reconnect. And then TLC, they're wonderful for so many reasons, super helpful for this work. What time is it? 11:20. Yeah, let's talk about some of, like, for me, biodiversity is a big part of this work. And our nursery being community driven rather than just profit driven, we can work with a lot of species that kind of get ignored by the larger nurseries. Um, like hickory, this is a great example. They're very difficult to grow in a nursery, so a lot of for-profit nurseries just don't. And that's a shame. They're keystone species, really important here. And this is one our network can work more on and start to plant a lot more of too. Another one I love, this one's called Bladdernut. Great little tree. Most people have never heard of it. Doesn't really have a very sexy name. So people are not like going to the nursery and being like, I want to buy bladdernuts. But look at those little flowers and these little seed pods. It's a great little tree, and it's something our nursery grows and works to get planted around the triangle. And this, like, we're just scratching the surface here. There are ton of different species we're also interested in. Um, I could go on and on, but this is a good this is something I'm proud of for our network, is being able to work with species that are less commercially available for all sorts of reasons. And so again, once we collect all those seeds, they and bring them to the seed hub, we decide where they should go. Some of them are planted in Project Pando's nursery. Clay here in Durham takes a lot and plants them at his farm. There's a picture of his work. Um, we also sometimes we give them to schools and things as educational tools, or people wanting to just plant a smaller amount to again have more access to this growing process, whether that be educational or inspirational or just a relationship. We're also starting to work with nurseries, so that's another big part of the network. We give seeds to the North Carolina Forest Service. We've given some of the botanical gardens and some of our smaller native nurseries. This is something I think can be a really great tool to help these nurseries grow more natives. Uh, and then once we grow our trees, we give them out in various ways. We like to do tree giveaways to the general public. Individual yards are a great place to focus on some of this diversity that we're lacking or we need more support for. Again, like the hickories and bladdernuts, they can fit really well in a homeowner's yard, and free trees is a great way to motivate a homeowner to do that. We also love to work with organizations who are working on sort of more rare or difficult or um, yeah, I guess if they have a restoration project that like free trees is the boost they need, we and they want a little more support with that. That's who we really love to work with. So Walnut Creek Wetland is a great example. This is a park in Raleigh. This whole section here along Walnut Creek was pure privet, and they removed it. And the question was, okay, how do we plant natives that will hopefully fight back against that invasive pressure? And so what we did was a pocket forest. Um, so each flag here is a little native tree or shrub that we planted. So it's very dense and it's very diverse. This one was over like 15 species, but we've done more diversity. And the idea here is trees and shrubs like to grow in a forest. So this dense planting makes them compete, which so they grow taller and faster, but it also makes them cooperate. So they start to create that forest microclimate very quickly, and it's great for their health and their growth, but it's also great for fighting back against that invasive pressure. And so just quickly, this is a different site, but this is an example of a pocket forest and its growth. So this is 2 months old, drone shot after planting. You can't even see any of the trees or shrubs. This is during the dormant season. They're so small. All you're seeing there is mulch and grass. But then 5 months, you start to see some of that growth. We mulched a lot heavier. Um, this is 8 months, so that fall, you're starting to see some bigger trees there, some shade being cast. Again, that microclimate starting to build. And this is 1.5 years. So this is the summer after the second summer. Um, we extended the fence, and you can really start to see the trees filling in now. You can see the mulch in between them, but they're starting to close canopy in lots of different places, and flowers are already happening, which is great. And then this is the next summer. So we took off the fence because they were big enough that the deer weren't gonna knock them all back. And it's a completely co closed canopy. I mean, this is an awesome forest now. Everything is taller than me. Um, Not everything, but most of the stuff is taller than me. There's big trunks in there. Yeah, this site is at Triangle Land Conservancy's Williamson Preserve, and it's something I'd love to show you all if you have the time, or we'd love to plant more of these because they're the most exciting home for me for these tiny little trees. These pocket forests are just fun to watch grow, and it happens quite quickly. Um, so yeah, that was quick. 17 minutes flew by. But if you want to learn more, feel free to email me, eb@leaflim.com. Happy to, again, we're trying to be collaborative as possible with this project. So feel free to reach out with questions, with thoughts, or if you want more follow-up information about all this, I'd be happy to continue chatting.
Yeah. Thank you so much, EB. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Brooks.
Yeah, thanks, EB. I had a question about how you guys do quality control in terms of the seeds that you receive from the community
Yeah.
to determine, whether it's a native tree or it could be maybe, I know there's lots of, Chinese varieties. I'm thinking about redbud, for example, where like the trees are very similar to the native version, and that you're propagating these seeds that where there's some quality control for making sure that you're planting and growing the seeds that are actually from here, and you're not getting, you know, either invasive or alien species and or heavily modified native versions or cultivars, if you will, of those trees.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great question. It is difficult. Yeah, again, we've been doing it for 6 years, and this is really where like we really want to focus on that educational piece because we have some volunteers who have been working with us, for all 6 years. They're great. We've worked with them to really know which trees to source from. Sometimes we get donations from people that, well, we get everything. Sometimes we get stuff that's not a seed at all. It's crepe myrtle. It's just not great quality, and we have to compost it. So that takes a lot of work, and that's really where just like the more people who are learning how to identify trees, the more we're shifting this overall like landscaping nursery industry towards more native will be helpful because it just takes a lot of work. There's no really way about it right now.
Yeah,
But
so you guys are trying to identify them then at the seed stage, and then I'm assuming some slip through, and then you then have to, or once they become like seedlings, are you then having to cull some there then at that stage as well?
oh yeah, at every stage, yeah. And we try to when people donate, we try to get, hey, can you give us more information about this tree? Can you share pictures? Like, and you get a sense from the person donating, like maybe they know really what they're talking about, and yeah, this is going to be a good seed, or maybe there's a good chance this isn't quite what we're
Yeah.
after. But
Thank you.
yeah, it takes a lot of work, and that's where
Yeah.
just every year we get a little bit better, but we make mistakes too. Yeah.
Thanks.
Am I calling? I
Yeah,
see
you for sure.
Jennifer.
Thanks, EB. Um, so my question is about the reforestation stage. You showed a couple pictures, and I'm familiar with some of your projects where you're taking like an open plot of land and then reforesting it from dirt or from grass.
Yeah.
I'm curious if y'all are doing any projects or have ideas for projects where there's already trees, but it's mostly pines. In my very limited understanding of reforestation, when you have like a clear cut area, first come in the pines because they grow so quickly, and then like over like 100 years, you get hardwoods back. Maybe that's wrong, but that's my limited understanding. So I'm curious about if this type of project could work to introduce hardwoods faster into an area that is just pines right now.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something we're super interested in, but is kind of a further project. From our experience so far, there's still so much area still in the triangle that's just grass or not much growing there or invasives. So we'd rather
Mm-hmm.
focus on all those because I completely agree we need more diversity in our established forest too, but those are not as high priority for us versus grass or invasive.
Gotcha.
And
But the project, go ahead.
that's really like where working with the Forest Service is huge because one of their huge bottlenecks is just access to seed. They primarily
Hmm.
grow loblolly because that's the timber industry, but they would grow more natives if they had more seed, and they've been really thankful for our donated seed.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
that's a longer debate that we want to be a part of. But yeah, I think there's a lot.
Okay. But the process still works the same in terms of like if you were just adding more trees to an existing pine forest, or is it like you basically have to develop new methods entirely?
No, the process isn't the same. It's more complicated too. That's the other.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Another Jennifer? I think you said yeah.
Yeah, sorry, two Jennifers. Too many Jennifers. I have a couple of questions. Thank you, EB.
Yeah.
One is the city of Durham's beginning to plant more trees, trying to follow the comprehensive plan's requirement of a 55% tree canopy. Have you had any success in trying to talk to the city about native trees? I know their pushback is, oh, they don't survive in urban environments. Um, the other thing that we're doing with the UDO is hoping to protect some open space in like pocket parks or what are called paper streets, streets that were mapped out but never developed. So they're sort of alleyways, usually dumpsters, but they're places that we could put native trees. So any success in communicating with Durham?
That's more KDB's alley right now, I would say. We don't have a really close relationship with Durham City a little bit, but Tanya, do you want to jump in or?
Sure. Yeah, we've been having conversations with the city in terms of the paper streets. I think they're still working out the details, but they have a couple of pilot locations, one of which is definitely very conducive to native planting, and also like a pathway corridor, and like probably primarily starting with invasive removal, followed by native planting. I think it's a wonderful model. And also Keep Durham Beautiful is partnering with New Hope Bird Alliance and Rewild and Durham Parks and Recreation. And we're doing a lot of invasive plant removal in several Durham parks and also, other open spaces in Durham. Volunteers are very excited about that invasive removal, and it would be really wonderful if we could follow that up with the native plantings to, sort of prevent encroachment of the invasives after that.
Yeah, and on the tree front, let's see, the trees that they'll be planting, have a subset of the species that they are going for, and I can share that.
Are
With
you're talking about the city street trees, Mason, or
oh yeah,
are you
yeah,
talking, so the paper streets are actually like more native, more green spaces rather than right of way. But I think people would like to know those street tree plantings as well.
yeah. I think maybe that was Jenny's first part of the question, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that okay? Yeah, so we unfortunately, as far as I know, haven't had much input on like what the species will be for those street trees, and I don't know if that will be something that we'll get to do. But the ones that I've seen in the contract um are going to be native, and but I'm sure they're planting others like that's under different funding that I haven't seen, so not sure what those will be like, but yeah, they are focused on ones that will be more hardy, while also focusing within that on natives, and ones that provide good habitat and so forth. But I'm not sure like how amenable or how likely it is that they'll be able to change that.
Yeah, I think probably for this year, the contracted trees have been purchased, but I think probably for future years, it's still available to be adjusted.
My experience with Durham is that you have to keep hammering on the door to get them to listen. So you were doing such a wonderful job with Keep Durham Beautiful. It would be nice if the government and planning department were actually more integrated with your work. So let's keep working on that. See if we
Yeah.
can figure that
Yeah,
out.
it is. I mean, we just don't have that much control over what, and they may not have that much control too because of what nursery availability is. But I think that there is a opportunity to look forward and do some contract arrangements with nurseries to actually choose species that meet both the needs of being most beneficial for wildlife and hardy for street trees.
Well, I think EB and Project Pando could also be advisors on that. So
Yeah,
hopefully we can all
absolutely.
work together.
That's a great idea.
You can ignore the first what do you call it, flyer or PDF I just put in there. The second one is the one that leads to the tree species. And this is like meant for like your average person who might want to know just the basics of the what they are, but yeah, there's always more info out there, of course.
That's pretty good. It looks like there's only one non-native. Any other questions?
Evie, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Um, you guys are doing amazing work. I just feel like I got to share the moment in time where I am right now. I can hear a clear cutting team behind me. They are working on Army Corps land next to Falls Lake. So in my background, trees are going down. On the table in front of me are a bunch of seeds collected by a local neighbor, black walnuts that they curse at, but we're smart enough to say, hey, those are valuable nuts. And then in the foreground in front of me is a stand of Native American persimmons tree, which has literally hundreds and hundreds of fruits sitting up there waiting to come down as I will wait for them. And your work has been so inspiring to me, amongst others. And I think there's so much potential here. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for presenting to this group.
Thanks, Clay.
Excellent. Well, if no one has any more questions for EB, we have a couple of more minutes if anyone has any announcements or updates from their organization.
I have one, if I may, from Durham Academy. Um, there, I have been the first sustainability coordinator and will be retiring at the end of this school year. And we have just posted the position for the next sustainability leader. And I'll send out a message to the group right after this call, but would really encourage you all to share it within your networks or consider applying. I think knowledge of the local nonprofit scene is a plus for what we're trying to do. So,
Thank you and congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations, Tina. And I guess I plugged this earlier, but the O. Wilson Biodiversity Foundation, along with the New Hope Bird Alliance, along with Preston Montague, we're running a couple workshops down at Dix Park, connecting grasslands to native species, and we'll be doing some blue bird houses as well. And I'll send links to those events. Great for educators or people that are interested in learning. It's a free event, and that's happening this Saturday. So I'll put the links in the chat. Thanks.
I would encourage Astrid to jump in here, but I know she also works for a living, so she may be engaged with that. But Durham is moving fast with its UDO. All of a sudden, it's presented the Module 3, which has the environmental protections, of which there are very few. And it wants to finalize that by the end of November. So there are public engagement programs coming in mid-November. We can post those if you're not aware of them. We're urging people to engage with those. And also, New Hope Bird Alliance has drafted a letter that it's asking its colleagues, especially all of you on this board, and their organizations to sign on to. So Astrid sent that last night. Hopefully it reached most of you. And let me know if you have questions.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. Yes, I think, I mean, some of you have heard me talk about this project for a long time. But yes, I did send the request for co-sponsors. I understand different organizations have different capacities for that. So, if you cannot sign on maybe in a formal organizational capacity, if you're still interested in being involved, please do reply to that email with any, if you are interested in being more engaged, happy to do that as well. The event we're pushing for the most is the in-person Module 3 engagement, which is on November 13th. And being in person is very, very important to really show that people are interested in giving feedback. And then if you want to provide any of your individual comments, you can always send them to the city. The email address for that is newudo@durhamnc.gov. Really encourage lots of comment sharing. Really cannot be too detailed. Because this is going to be quite an uphill battle. So if you want to be engaged in any way, please feel free to reach out to me, reply to that email, or just please consider attending the Module 3 session. Yes, so thank you.
Astrid, can you share a link to that or anything?
Yes, I'll put some links in the chat. The link to the in-person engagement session.
Yeah, or is that the Module 3 that you were talking about?
Yep,
Okay,
yep, I
thanks.
can send that. Yes, definitely.
Alexis, you've got your hand up for a while.
I know Jennifer mentioned this earlier about the insecticide spraying, but just wanting to mention that it's ongoing, that there will be another round of spraying October 15th and 16th. And it's on the Durham Public Health website, but I don't think that they really maybe have the capacity to get the word out. And so I think as much as we can all do to spread the word and make sure beekeepers, people with pollinator gardens are aware so they can at least cover up what they can in advance of the spraying. It's happening at night, which, may in some ways minimize the impact. But of course, I think we all know that there will still be some harms from this spraying. So yeah, please help to get the word out. We have some posts on our Instagram about it, and also some materials I think we'll be sharing over the coming weeks about other communities. I know you mentioned Carborough, but there's a lot of great management plans across the country around prevention and education so that we don't have to get to this place, especially this late in the season.
Yeah, and I didn't press the speaker, the man I spoke to, about how much this is costing us as taxpayers, but um, it's not the best way to go about mosquito prevention in addition to the toxic stuff that they're spraying. So a couple of reasons why we should be pressing for them to do it in the right way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think if anybody has, I know this is near the end of the season, but starting in the spring, I wonder if there would be an opportunity to like launch an awareness campaign among those organizations that are interested in, um, between all of us, we have a pretty broad reach, and I bet we could get the city involved in communicating that message too about like best practices at home for preventing mosquitoes. And I do remember in previous years, Durham County Department of Health had distributed for free the larvicide dunks, um, which kills the larvae without harming the flying insects. So I think that's one of the tools, right? So yeah, I bet we could start planning over this winter. I'd be interested in having Keep Durham Beautiful involved. And so maybe if anybody else.
So Tanya, I'm supposed to write this man that I spoke to with information about Chapel Hill's prevention, which is much more sound. Could I copy you and say that we'd love to work with him in the spring to get that
Yeah,
message out?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think that we could do some kind of planning session over the winter to, kind of get the planning all set up so that we can, kind of target it throughout the season.
I would love to be copied as well. I'm curious if you talked to James Salter or the name of the person in public health that you spoke with.
Yeah, he calls himself Chris Salter. He goes by his middle name, Christopher, Chris.
that's who
Yeah.
I spoke to also. Yeah.
Yeah, back when we used to do a tire recycling drive, they actually came out and helped because they were trying to prevent mosquitoes, I don't know, 10 years ago too. And at that time, I think they were not spraying or they had ceased it, but they were passing out the mosquito dunks in conjunction with our tire recycling drive because tires, I mean, that's an issue, tires sitting around is an issue for Keep Durham Beautiful, tires dumped in the woods and everything. And those are one of the prime places that mosquitoes, the water stands and doesn't like seep into the ground.
Yeah, when I spoke to, like Jenny, when I spoke to Chris, he definitely mentioned that this was um, not something that they normally budget for, that it was outside their normal kind of scope of spending. And so he seemed very open to it. I also suggested, there's more communication and kind of community awareness activity that could be done to raise awareness about preventative methods rather than kind of this kind of band-aid approach, which has a lot of collateral damage. So I think he seemed open to it, but there were a lot of factors at play, as you mentioned, Jenny, in terms of the West Nile cases on some of the mosquitoes that they found, how the kind of the disease load was, but also the delay in getting the spraying done when the cases were confirmed in July. So there's a lot of disconnect there and a lot of poor communication by their department in general. So I would encourage anyone else to call, voice their displeasure. I know they're making lots of calls, but I think it is effective.
All right. Well,
If
thank
anyone
you.
has any other announcements, they could put them in the chat too.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we get any sort of working group going for that planning, we could announce it on the DEC listserv.
All right. Well, I'll give it a couple more minutes if anyone has anything else to add to the chat. But otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, EB, for coming to present. I'm actually very inspired to see if I can come out and volunteer for some seed collection. Sounds pretty cool. Yeah,
Thank y'all.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, y'all. It was fun.
Thanks, AB. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.